Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I am Kathy Groover. And I had a beautiful experience the other day that I wanted to share. So I was in CVS, and there are two older women that work there. They have been there forever. I hope these women are compensated well, because they are there every single day. I don't know that I've ever gone in there where I've not seen these two women. They're probably in their 70s. And I'm standing in line, and they now have these three self-checkout things, and they're a piece of shit. They do not work. As soon as you scan something, help is on the way. And you can see these poor women going, they just don't work. They're just awful. So I don't use them anymore. And everyone's like, are you going to use them? I'm like, no, they suck. So I get up to the front, and I'm right next to the self-checkout, and there's a gal there, and she's doing her thing. And there had been a pile of like a bag of squirt guns sitting there. And the woman who was helping me, I'll say her name, Nancy, grabs the bag of squirt guns and puts them back behind the counter because she thought they were, didn't need to be there. And the woman goes, I was going to scan those. I need to see a price. And the woman who's helping me, Nancy, says, hang on 1 second. Let me finish this and I can scan that for you. You don't want to scan it on the self-checkout. It'll just mess things up. Give me 1 minute. Well, just give them to me. I'll scan them someplace else, and grabs them and hurries off. And she kind of looks at me and she goes, someone's having a bad day. And I said, maybe. I said, but does that give you an excuse to be unkind to someone who's trying to help you? And she says, yeah, no. And I said, I'm not perfect at it, but I always try to go out of my way to be nice, to be kind, to be patient. Do I fail sometimes? Yes. But I do really try, because you didn't do anything wrong. And she's clearly having whatever she's having. And she said, can I tell you a story? And I said, absolutely. She said, I was at the grocery store the other day, and there was a gentleman behind me, and he had these beautiful bouquet of flowers. And she said, I turned to him and said, oh my gosh, those flowers are so beautiful. And he goes, oh, thank you for thinking that. I'm taking them up to my wife. I hope she likes them. And Nancy says, yeah, oh, she's going to. They're just so beautiful. She checks out. She heads out to her car, and it's not close. She had to go a ways. And as she's getting into her car, she hears, hey, hey, hey. And she turns, and the guy has followed her out to the parking lot, hands her the flowers, and says, you thought these were so beautiful, I would like you to have them. And she started to tear up, which made me tear up. So I'm standing at CVS crying. And I do have to say, for those people who are wondering, I did check behind me to make sure no one was waiting before I let her launch into the story. Because I'm like, because I've done that. I'm like, so I looked and I said, yeah, go ahead, tell me the story. So she says, she goes, my first thought was, no, I can't take these. And he goes, yes, take them. You thought they were beautiful, and you really deserve these. And she says, but what about your wife? And he said, well, I'm going to go back in and get her another bouquet. They had a bunch of them. And she said, without even thinking, I threw my arms around him and gave him a hug. And she called her daughter, and she took these flowers home, and it absolutely made her day. And I'm like literally tearing up. And I said, thank you so much for sharing that. I said, because he shared kindness with you. Now you just told me this story, which is sharing that kindness with me. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to make sure that I spend the rest of my day being kind to people. And I walked out of there so elated, and she was happy. We forgot about the dick who was using the self-checkout machine. And it was just so great. That became my daily pause for the day. I had hundreds of people that are like, thank you for sharing this kindness and da-da-da. So we're radiating it out. So it's like, I know we all have crappy days, and we can always focus on the crappy, shitty things that are happening around us. But it takes nothing to simply be kind to another person.
Well, and you're sharing it again here, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, it keeps on giving. It keeps on giving. People that listen to this now will be kinder to other people, and it just ripples out, right? I mean, one little kind act can literally change the future, right? Because I remember it was kind of a funny. I can't even remember which movie it was, but Jonah Hill was in it, and he was kind of like the the cipher neighbor that nobody ever paid attention to. And I think there was one scene where he's like, he says hi to somebody in the hall, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm going home to overdose and kill myself, right? And so the other person was like, whoa, just a minute, right? But stopping, and instead of just having oh, that's nice, and letting the person go on with their day, doing little things can actually literally change the course of human events, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't take much to be kind. It doesn't take much to be patient. And again, it's not a big inconvenience, but it's a big deal to the other people,
Yep.
right? And so, especially if you're a person that is like, oh, the world is so shitty, everybody's so mean, everybody's so self-absorbed, everybody's so whatever, right? Well, start being the change you want to see in the world. Start being kind to other people. Don't pass on what you're given if that's not what you wanted to get, right?
Yep.
Pass on to people what you want to keep going and what you want to have come back to you, because it will come back to you.
Yep.
It will come back to you.
Yep.
As we do it. And I think it's you're a Pittsburgh girl, and I'm a Mr. Rogers fan, right?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh as well. And I think that's one thing that Mr. Rogers always taught, that I really every day embody or work to embody, is just to be kind to people. Just actually see the human across from you.
Yes.
Right. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's like, I don't like the self-checkouts either. And I'm not a huge chatty kind of person anyway, but I always try to acknowledge the cashier.
Yep.
In some way. Use their name, say something, be a little bit different, but at least for a few seconds, let that person know that I see them as a human being.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Eckhart Tolle talks about that, about presence, right? And how often you're at the Starbucks or whatever, you grab your coffee, they hand you the change, you're like, thank you, and you shove it in your purse and go. It takes a second to meet their eyes and say, thank you. Mm-hmm. Acknowledging that they're a human and not just a transaction. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important. And I try to be so conscious of that. When I'm signing books at talks, it's like I meet, I take their, thank you so much. I take the credit card, I hand them a business card. I try to be so conscious of that, even though I look back and see 30 more people that I've got to do that with. It's so easy to go, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's like, I actually just did a talk on presence and I'm not being present with you. That's like, I've got to do that. And it takes consciousness, and sometimes it takes effort, because we reward bad behavior in this society. And I said to somebody the other day, I said, if the Kardashians were good communicators with a healthy sense of self, we wouldn't watch. We watch because of drama. We watch because they're negative to each other, or, Sex Island, or The Bachelor, and The Old Bachelor, and The Gray Bachelor, and The Toddler Bachelor. And we've got all of these reality shows that thrive on drama and people not being nice. And it's like, don't, if that's your entertainment, great. But don't live your life that way. Be kind. And one of the things that Nancy said was that, she goes, my car wasn't like the first one in the parking lot. Like, he had to come find me. And I was like, that is just so fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. That's just so awesome. Or, someone, I was at a talk last week, and we were talking about buying something for the person in line behind us, like in the drive-through line of something. I've done that for people, and people have done that for me, where I get up to the In-N-Out window and they're like, oh, the guy in front of you paid. And I'm like, oh, mm-hmm. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So I was doing my talk on resistance to change, and I have these circles, these concentric circles, and the inner one's green. That's who's in your green circle. Like, who can you call at 3 a.m. to help you? Who will help you move? Who will bail you out of jail? Who will hide the bodies? The yellow circle is, kind of neutral, your neighbor that you say hi to, but don't really know them well. And the red circle of who's keeping you down, who's keeping you stuck, who's not in your corner. Maybe it's the hater on social media, or the boss that's mean, or the coworker that's a jerk, or the ex-husband who's unsupportive, that circle. And somebody said to me, they raised their hand and they said, but what if someone's in your inner circle, but they're not in yours? And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, what if you're constantly doing nice things for somebody, but they're not doing nice things back to you? Or you do something nice for someone and they don't reciprocate that. And I said, I don't personally believe that's how that works. I said, I believe it's someone does something nice to me, I do something nice for somebody else, then they do something nice for somebody. I said, it's a chain, it's a web of nicety. It's not I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I said, it's not that kind of reciprocal to me. Do
Yeah.
I expect the people in my circle to be nice also? Yeah, but it's not an eye for an eye. Just because my client, we use this example in a different show, drove me to the car dealership to get my car fixed, I'm not going to call him one day, can you go to the car dealership? It's like, it's not that, it's not quite like that.
No.
And everyone kind of went, yeah. And we started this whole discussion about this just sort of web of niceness and how that kindness radiates out. And it doesn't have to be one for one, it's everybody. So that was the other thing I wanted to throw in.
Well, and I think it's, because that goes back to if anybody's ever read the book or seen the movie Pay It Forward. I mean, there's a tearjerker, right? You watch the movie, I cry in movies, okay?
Yeah.
I cry watching Disney movies sometimes, it's like anyway. But that's the whole idea, right? Is this concept of general reciprocity,
Yeah.
as opposed to kind of a quid pro quo reciprocity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quid pro quo a lot of times, is referred to in things like sexual harassment and other stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the idea that you do something for me, I will match and do something for you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not how, this general reciprocity, or a word that I use is Eine, around that, where it is, again, today for you, tomorrow for me.
Mm-hmm.
But tomorrow for me may not come from Kathy. It may come from somebody else, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because we're paying it forward. And I think what's interesting too is that it's, paying it forward. Sometimes it's money. I mean, the guy bought flowers, something of
Mm-hmm.
monetary value for that woman. Sometimes it's monetary. Sometimes it's just a smile.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's actually listening to somebody. Sometimes it's just looking the other human in the eye and
Yeah.
acknowledging that they are alive and that you see them.
Mm-hmm.
It can even be as simple as sending good wishes and thoughts to another person without even saying a thing,
Yeah.
right? Those are all ways to be kind, to pay things forward. I mean, a lot of times, I don't remember if I shared it on here or not, but the experience popped in my head again. Every so often we get wrong numbers that call us, right?
Yeah.
Or that text us, because every so often I'll get, hey, Joan, here's blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no Joan here, right?
Right.
And so I got one of those texts one time. And I'm like, well, that's not me, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, right, for doing this. And I'm like, hey, it's okay, these things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of went back and forth over the course of a day, because obviously this person needed to talk to somebody or communicate with somebody, and so we kind of sent nice texts back and forth to each other during the day. And at the end of the day, the person was like, oh my gosh, thank you for being so nice to me. Because I think, some people might be like, what the fuck are you calling me for? Kind of thing, right? And so at the end of it, she's like, oh my gosh, thank you for being so nice to me. Can I take you to coffee or do something like that? Right. And I'm like, no, it's no. Okay, first off, stranger danger. No, not
Yeah. And
really.
I'm not I'm not in Tacoma. So
Yeah. But it's like, no, you don't need to do anything. If you want to do something for me, do something nice for somebody else, or think and send me good thoughts. That's fine with me.
Yep.
Right. And so I think, and again, people might sit there and think, well, how is me sitting here in Sedona and thinking about Kathy and saying something, again, focusing on Kathy, having my attention on Kathy, and feeling gratitude for my beautiful friend Kathy and just sending her love without even saying anything to her,
Yep.
she'll feel it.
She's totally feel it.
She's feeling it right now too.
Oh, I'm crying. Well,
okay.
And you
so
know what
even those
what
things
made my day today? What made my day today was you commenting on my hair. Because it's been such a struggle for me. So for you to say your hair is really coming in and looking great, because for those of you who didn't see that episode, I had a reaction to a medication and the majority of my hair fell out. I never had great hair anyway. But now it's like, God, I wish my hair was that bad. And so the fact that it's like starting to grow in, I chopped it because I had to. But the fact that it's starting to like come back and it's looking thick and it's looking healthy. And Jason noticed and he said, wow, your hair's coming. It looks really good. That, yay. And thank you for saying that because it's been such a struggle. So any women out there that are having hair loss stuff, dude, I fucking get it, man. It's been horrific. It's horrible. It's at least, I know it's terrible for men too, but at least it's acceptable for that. Like you can walk around in a hat all day. I can't, I have to show my head. So you saying that was like, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So
well, no, because when we came on, it was the same thing, right? I was looking at you. I was seeing you as my friend because I love you.
Yeah.
Right. And in your hair, it does. I mean, you can tell a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I just had that thought pop into me, right? When we got on, it's like compliment her hair. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Right?
So here's the episode where we sat here and cried.
I know, I was like wiping it away.
Yeah. And I get blotchy when I cry. So yeah, there's the Kathy crying.
The blotchy coming in.
Yep.
But no, it can, so everybody that's listening, it can be that simple.
Yep.
It can be that simple, right? And so why not help somebody else feel better? Because when you help somebody else feel better, you feel better about yourself.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And you don't have to I don't have to send Kathy flowers. I can literally just think about her and she will feel it.
Yep.
600 miles away or however far away we are right now, she will feel it because we are connected energetically as friends and as humans. She will feel it. I will feel it. Right. No words even have to be spoken, but words are great too.
We love words.
So like, don't go around never saying words.
Yeah. Just staring weirdly at people and they're like, what are you doing? Sending you love. Eckhart Tolle talks about that, right? That we're an ocean and each one of us is that little peak of the wave. And how do you separate that from the whole? Right. So all of those little peaks are all connected to this vast ocean. And, I've been doing a lot of research on psilocybin and mushrooms and how they have this web of connectedness over the planet is this mycia and how we're all so intricately connected. And it's been fascinating. So yeah, just go be kind. And then share those stories. Had Nancy not shared that story with me, I don't know that it would have brought it so much to my awareness of what we can do for other people and how we can make their day. So go out and just be kind to someone today. Every day, all the time.
All the time. Well, and that's one of the things that I say to myself all the time, right? Is, ways of being and some of the mantras or whatever you want to call them, right? Is I say things to myself like, I am kind, loving, and respectful. I do everything with kindness, right? I'm just reminding myself over and over and over and over and over again. And sometimes I don't do it, right? But then I make up for it and I try to do the best that I can. But those little acts like that, like it keeps coming back to people too, right? It's like you do it once, but it's going to keep coming back to them. They're going to keep remembering that experience, especially when things might be hard for them.
Yep.
And you never know how many times that being kind to somebody in the store is going to actually help them in their life. Yep.
Because every time she looks at those flowers, she's going to think of that act. And then she passed it on to her daughter and me. And now I've passed it on to hundreds of people. So, yay. All right, everyone, go out and be kind. I'm Kathy Groover. I could be reached at kathygruver.com.
I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. And we'll catch catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.
Yeah.